Today in the studio we have Rohit Bhambi. He is a co-founder of Boston Bhangra and South Asian Nation. Rohit, welcome and thank you very much for coming to our studio.
No problem, of course.
And we are so happy to have you here.
Thank you.
We are going to talk a lot about Bhangra today.
Sounds good.
So let's start. When did you start your interest in Boston Bhangra? Or in Bhangra in general?
Bhangra in general?
Yeah.
So Bhangra, it all really started with my parents.
Mhm.
My mom and dad got us into the music. We started dancing, got into the, it all started with my parents.
And how old you were there at that time?
So, I started like hearing Bhangra music, all this kind of stuff, I'd say around 7, 8, and it just kept growing and growing. And then, eventually we're on stage and, my dad was helping us with choreography. After that point, got to college, then that just took off. Then we just took off from there.
So you, as I know that you were born in UK, right?
Yes.
And then at what age did you move here to Boston?
So moved here when I was 5 years old. So I've been here for a long time. I'm not going to give you my exact age.
Okay.
But
But you
I've
moved
been
here in
for a
Boston
while.
area or
Yes,
some?
Boston. Yep, I've been
Boston.
here for a long time. Yep.
For a long time.
Yes.
Okay. And when was the first time you performed on a stage? How old you were there?
I'd say I was about 16.
About 16.
Yep. I performed at United India Association. Their cultural shows for Diwali. We performed there a couple of years in a row doing Bhangra every year.
Okay. Now you co-founded Boston Bhangra and South Asian Nation with
Yes.
your brother.
Yes.
So how was that rivalry between you and your brother?
Sure. So, we founded Boston Bhangra based on the fact that my brother used to go to Northeastern University. I went to BU and Boston University. We both founded our respective Bhangra teams, but we would never dance with one another. We would always dance against one another. So it was a very interesting household at that time. Because we love each other to death. But the rivalry was very intense. We would not talk about Bhangra around one another.
Did you have any sister? Or?
Yes, we have a sister too. Yes.
Okay, so how is sister? She was involved in that.
She was a little younger than us.
Okay.
So she didn't really get involved in that. She also didn't go to college in this area at that time.
Okay.
So because of that rivalry never really happened. But me and my brother,
Is she also involved in Bhangra these days, or
not so much anymore.
Not so
Like he
much.
basically helps support. He's still part of the organization.
Mm.
But he's not as involved anymore.
Now you started in 2000, right?
Yes.
2000. So tell us about the evolution of Boston Bhangra.
Sure. So back in 2000, we started as a competing team. Me and my brother wanted to dance together, so we formed Boston Bhangra, got a lot of the best dancers from Boston. We started representing Boston across the globe. So we competed all across America, all across Canada, did very well. Over the 30 competitions that I've competed in, both with BU and Boston Bhangra, I've ranked at more than half of them, with my teams. So that's been good, and basically we just helped kind of evolve it from there. So basically we were competing originally. After we finished kind of competing, we started competitions. We became a legal nonprofit, a 501c3.
When was that?
Back in 2004.
2004.
Yep. So we became a nonprofit at that point. We started teaching classes, doing performances, and we kind of just evolved it over time. So now we actually have up to 4 classes that we teach right now.
So when is your next Bangla competition?
It is November 22nd
Okay. And where is it going to happen?
at the Orpheum Theater in Boston.
And how many people you expect roughly?
3,000.
3,000.
Yeah.
And that's the number I remember last year also you had.
Yes.
Similar.
So basically with the support of India, New England, and the community as a whole, that's how we hope to get to that number again this year.
Okay. Tell us about South Asian Nation. What is the difference between Boston Bhangra and South Asian Nation?
Sure. So Boston Bhangra is focused on Bhangra. South Asian Nation's really more focused on the general South Asian demographic. So, we host our New Year's Eve party with that. December 31st, we host a New Year's Eve party in Marlborough. And we also have South Asian Showdown, which is our Bollywood fusion competition. So we get the best team, just like Boston Bhangra competition. With Boston Bhangra, we get the best Bhangra teams. With South Asian Showdown, we get the best Bollywood and fusion teams.
I have to tell you that I once attended the South Asian Showdown, and it was totally out of the world experience. That the quality of production was as good as any Bollywood movie. So
yeah, these teams put a lot of effort in to make it seem just like that. That was the same impression I had the first time I saw one of these teams, because we've actually competed in competitions where it's cross type of dance. Bhangra, Garba, Bollywood. I used to think Garba and Bollywood, they don't touch Bhangra, you know. But when I saw these teams, it just blew me away. When I saw them, it just shows me how rich our culture really is, because, when you got a competitive team that's really good, any of these genres can look good.
So tell us, what is the difference between Boston Bhangra and South Asian Showdown?
Sure. So with Boston Bhangra, again, it's really focused on Bhangra. We get the best Bhangra teams. They all come to Boston. They compete. With South Asian Showdown, it's really more Bollywood and fusion focused. So we get the best teams from, again, North America. Similar concept, different dance genres. And they present themselves differently. Bhangra is really more focused on, the dance itself, and they do some various things with the stage. With South Asian Showdown, the actual cinematic feel to it is much higher. Like it's like watching like a dance video, from a Bollywood film. A lot of these teams go out of their way to make sure people get that feel from it.
Now, one difference between Bhangra dance and Bollywood dance, what will be that?
So I always tell people Bhangra is an actual folk dance. It has steps, and it's a real founded dance. Bollywood to me is a conglomeration of anything. You can really throw any style, whether it's Western, Indian, it doesn't really matter. It's all choreo driven. So it's all based on the words. That's really the difference between Bollywood and Bhangra. Bhangra is folk based on steps. Bollywood is really more choreo driven based on any movement that you want to do.
Someone like me who has no clue about a Bhangra dance. So if I come to you and say, just teach me just one thing, so I can at least move my body or hands, whatever I need to move.
Sure.
What will be that move?
I would say the easiest move to learn would be a move when you get your hands up here like this.
Like this?
Right? And
Okay.
then you move your shoulders up and down.
Okay.
Up and
So
down.
not moving the hand, but just
No.
the shoulders.
See, when you start to see, this is what I consider Bollywood.
Okay.
This is what I consider Bhangra. Bhangra is all based out of the shoulders. That's where it all starts, along with your legs.
Mhm.
Very bounce driven. You're jumping around a lot in Bhangra. Bollywood, like I said, not that you're not bouncing around in Bollywood, but it's a lot more choreo driven. So you might not be dancing as hard, potentially, as you might in Bhangra.
Now, in your Boston Bhangra competition, how many teams roughly apply and how many you select? And tell us about that process.
Sure. So our judging process, in fact, we just picked our teams this past weekend. We're still kind of finalizing on all the numbers, but we picked 12 teams for the competition. We had close to 40 applications this year. So if you do the math right there, you're talking we're rejecting more than 70% of our teams. And again, it's all based on the videos they sent us. Good quality video, you show us good quality steps, good quality choreo. You have a good chance of getting in.
And these applications are from all over the world, or where?
All over the world. Like we've actually gotten applications from as far as India, but the reason we don't take the Indian teams is just visa problems, just international travel. It gets very complicated.
So that's very good that you have 40 applications and you select only 12.
Yeah, it's a competitive competition. We've been around for 11 years. With this being the 11th anniversary, everyone knows us. Again, the teams, if they're going to compete, they have heard of us. Whether you're, no matter where you are in the U.S. If you're in a Bhangra team, you've probably heard of us. And, we are the third longest tenured competition in the U.S. So there's only 2 other competitions that's been around longer than us. Everyone
and
else.
Who are those 2?
There is Bhangra Blowout in Washington, and there's Bruin Bhangra in California. That's it. Everyone else is less than us.
Now, in your competitive age, how many competitions did Boston Bhangra participated in, and how many competitions did you guys win?
Sure. So we had about, we competed, I say, about 20 to 25 competitions. We ranked in more than half of them. I think 50% rate was pretty good. And, we had a great time, made a lot of contacts over the years. And, competing is very different than what we do now. Like Boston Bhangra now is more focused on performances. So we perform all over the place. We perform for companies like Fidelity, McKinsey, EMC. I actually just taught there the other day. We've actually even danced for the WWE.
So they just invite you guys to come and dance, or they want to educate their employees, or what's
it's a combination.
Combination.
Sometimes they just want to just do a dance and leave. Other times they want us to get the crowd more involved. Teach them some steps. have fun with the audience, you know. Like I said, we did a performance at WWE where, you know, the World Wrestling Federation,
Sure.
you know, so we met like Vince McMahon and all these big shots, you know, that run the organization. And it was mind-blowing because as a kid, I used to watch that all the time. So now actually performing on stage and
Yeah.
with these guys it was crazy.
Now, we also see that Bhangra is going mainstream, and we saw Cornell team, they got into this America Has Got Talent
Yes.
competition.
Yep.
So what do you think of that? That's
You know, we tried doing the same thing about 7, 8 years ago. You know, we applied for America's Got Talent, went to New York, stood in line for about 8 hours, you know, did all that fun stuff. We didn't get selected because we were more folk. We're too folky for them. They're looking for more gimmicky, more, you know, something that's going to attract the audience more. And that's exactly what Cornell did. You know, they really focused it more towards, again, they did Bhangra, but it was very heavily driven towards the audience. They know who their audience was, and that's what they're trying to target at. So, you know, going mainstream, that's what we're all about. And in fact, you know, we really try to promote not just to Indians, but to everybody, because it's all about promoting our culture.
so do you think that Bhangra is getting to the mainstream, or it will take many more years?
Well, you know, for example, you know, even in hip hop, you know, Jay-Z, the famous rapper, he used a very famous Bhangra song, you know, about 10, 12 years ago. You know, Watch Out for the Boys. That was a Bhangra song. You know, he put it under his label, but that was a Bhangra song, you know. So, you know, you always see kind of pick up here and there. Now, again, America's Got Talent. Now, again, Cornell did that. You know, there's a lot of these little hints and things of it evolving that way. Different shows like America's Best Dance Crew, Dancing with the Stars. You always kind of see Bhangra popping up here and there. You know, again, people have always associated like Bollywood, but now people are kind of learning a little more about Bhangra, and people are getting more and more excited about it.
In terms of teams, you know, male versus female, in your competition, it is all together, girls and boys team participate together, or you have a separate team for girls and boys, a separate competition? How that work?
Sure. So when they apply to our competition, we don't care if you're girls, guys, boys, doesn't matter to us.
Everybody competes at the same
Level.
Same
you know,
level.
so I don't, as long as you're talented enough to get in, we think you could win. You know, if we don't think you have a chance, we would not even accept you.
So is there any other competition in mainstream America or mainstream world where you have a competition or dance where there is, you know, no male versus female, everybody's part of that? In this type of competitive.
You know, so I think in this day and age, it's not about like
It's
the
not
sex
about that.
type. It's not. It doesn't matter if you're female or male. It's all about
Talent.
That's what people want to see. What are you going to bring that's going to be different than the next person?
Okay. Now, tell us about that. Have you seen increased interest in learning Bhangras?
Absolutely. We have 4 classes now. You know, we teach class in Burlington, we teach class in Brookline, in Cambridge, and in Jamaica Plain. The only reason that we've been able to grow those class numbers is because there's interest. You know, we always hear that we want a class here, we want a class here. We try to do what we can. You know, we're all volunteers ourselves, you know, so we can only do so much, you know, but, you know, we definitely see an interest, and it's always continue to grow.
What is a typical eye student who wants to learn? What is their age? Is there an age group, or anybody can come and?
You know, honestly, I normally tell people anyone that's over 8 can learn Bhangra. You know, when you're below that, it's more jumping around as a kid. You know, that's fine, but for me as an instructor, I can't do much with jumping up and down.
Sure.
You know, I want people that are a little more focused, and you know, if you want to learn, we can teach you.
Oldest student you had?
50, 60.
50, 60.
Yeah. So, you know, again, I know sometimes the knees get a little weaker, ankles get a little weaker, but, you know, we always tell people, listen, Bhangra is all about how much you want to put in. If you want to go crazy, you can go crazy. If you just want to learn the actual dance, you know, you don't have to be going crazy in Bhangra. You know, there's this misconception that everyone has to go crazy when you're doing Bhangra, but it's not about that.
So what are the 3 or 4 key salient features of Bhangra, good Bhangra dance?
So, you know, I'd say grace, I would say energy, I would say expression, and I'd say movement. You know, if you're able to do all those things, you know, in a coordinated fashion, you'll probably do pretty good.
I think you missed the Punjabis, not being a Punjabi, the good feature to have to dance on Bhangra.
No, but you know, it's funny because, you know, Punjabis all think they have a, because they are Punjabi, they automatically know how to do Bhangra. You know, it's in their blood. That is absolutely false. Most Punjabis I know cannot dance. You know, they all think they can, and just because you can do this doesn't mean you can do
Well,
Bhangra.
I had thought that every Punjabi is a great Bhangra dancer, and whenever I see Punjabi dancing, I shouldn't even think about even moving to the dance floor. Or
It's funny. A lot of people I know that aren't even Indian can outdance a lot of Punjabis that I know.
really,
Yes. So it's not about being Punjabi, and not now, not anymore. And again, see, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves on. We want people to learn, and I don't care if you're Indian or American. If you have the passion, we can teach you.
we also see that there has been a lot of teams have sprang up in Boston.
Oh yeah.
Bhangra teams. So what are some of the teams? I think BU has one.
Yep. BU.
MIT.
We have one. Boston Bhangra, MIT, Northeastern, Tufts, Brandeis, Babson, Harvard. I'd say there's at least 10 teams just in Boston.
Just in Boston.
Just
alone.
in Boston.
Any particular reason? Or what about other towns and cities? Do they have similar number of teams, or Boston being a?
See, Boston really being a college town, you know, there's more teams here naturally. You know, just because there's 40 colleges in Boston, you know, so a handful of them have Bhangra teams. You know, so like I said, even outside of the colleges, there's other independent teams. You know, so that's where I'd say about 10 teams is about the number that there are out there right now. But it's a lot. It's a lot for one town.
Earlier, when we were talking about Bhangra, you talked about your growing up with your parents and how much influence they had on you as far as the Bhangra is concerned, and that's what got into there. So tell us about your experience growing up with them and learning Bhangra and what you learned from them.
Sure. So, you know, everything that I've learned with Bhangra all started with my parents. You know, just hearing the music, you know, getting that into, you know, getting it into me, you know, kind of getting the feel for it. You know, they started teaching me basic steps when I was a younger kid. My dad helped to kind of do choreography with us a lot, you know, so unfortunately he passed away, you know, about 10 years ago. But, you know, I always kind of look back at those days as, you know, some of my most fondest memories, you know, dancing with my parents, having them teaching us on stage, and my dad with his techniques of teaching us. You know, he wasn't the greatest dancer, but he was very passionate about it, and he knew the choreography, and, you know, he just, you know.
Do you still do any move which he taught you?
Oh, yeah. You know, again, you know, we still, you know, like I said, you know, anytime I think about Bhangra, I always think about my dad. You know, like he was one of the biggest reasons that I kind of kept doing it. And now with all the things that we have done, you know, I always think about him, and I always think that, you know, if he's looking down on us, he'd be very proud of us.
Now, you have 2 daughters, right?
Yes.
How old are they?
They're going to be 6 and 4 this year.
See, so how about them in Bhangra?
They don't have a choice.
They have no choice, okay.
They have no choice, you know. So, you know, being in the Bhambi household, you can't get away from dance. So, especially Bhangra, you know, again, all of us do it, and all of us are very passionate about it, you know. So, and, you know, we're always playing Bhangra music for them too. They love it. They love doing the sound effects. They love doing the dance. They just love it all too.
What about your wife?
So again, she's Punjabi too, and you know, she's more of a singer. She can dance too, but you know, she's a great singer. In fact, she's actually competed with us on stage before.
So
by
don't
singing.
tell me you met her at the Bhangra.
Yes. So
Did-
you know, we went to a Bhangra competition, and that's how I actually met my wife. You know, I met her through some friends, and then just things kicked off. You know, but Bhangra has played a very big part in my life.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I can see that. Yes. Coming back to South Asian Showdown, that's in February already. You have date and everything.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more that, you know, what type of teams you expect, what type of performance you vision there.
Sure. So with South Asian Showdown, again, the focus is on Bollywood and fusion. You know, so again, you'll see teams there kind of doing more of like some hip hop steps. You'll see teams doing Bollywood. You'll see teams doing Bhangra. You'll see teams doing Latin. Some doing like again modern dance. The spectrum is wide open in that competition. It's not limited. In Bhangra, it's limited. We want you to do Bhangra. In South Asian Showdown, it's not limited by anything. So some teams are strictly focused on Bollywood, so you'll see more of the scripted type of Bollywood film type feel. Other teams you'll see just doing straight fusion. So they'll be doing all sorts of different things and fusing them together. So very diverse type of show where there's really nothing like in Boston that I can really compare it to because, when you think of culture shows, I tell people about South Asian Showdown and they tell me, oh, it's like a culture show. I'm like, it is the farthest thing from a culture show that you could see because, again, cinematic kind of focused.
Sure, yeah.
And, they get the backdrops, the costume changes. They do anything you'd probably see in a Bollywood film. So.
I remember, I think a couple of years ago I saw one of them and it was just totally mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Now my question to you is, on that front, is that the quality was so good, the production was so good, that has anybody sent a video to somebody in Bollywood or Hollywood and say, look, this is what we do, give us a chance. Has anything happened like that? Or?
Well, it's funny, because I don't think teams focus so much on Bollywood. What they focus on is the stuff that's going on here. So, for example, Cornell,
Hollywood?
Well, like Cornell, right? They got America's Got Talent, right?
Sure.
That's the kind of focus that teams have had here. Again, even within Bollywood, there's a ton of teams that are doing the same kind of thing. They apply. There's a team called Ishara. They applied to America's Got Talent as well a couple of years ago, and they made it through a couple of rounds. So the evolution is really here. It's not about going necessarily to Bollywood.
Sure.
Not that they couldn't do that as well. I think they do very well there too.
Excellent.
But the focus is obviously in America.
Now, how do you see in the next 10 years Bhangra in the United States?
I really see Bhangra as the next form of big dance. I've been saying this for many years. Anyone who's interviewed me or talked to me about Bhangra, I always tell them the same thing, that Bhangra is the next big dance in the U.S. Just like Latin was, about a decade or two ago, I see the same thing with Bhangra moving forward, just because the excitement it brings. It's a celebratory dance. It's about happiness. You can do it one person, you can do 10 people. It doesn't matter, again, and you can almost do anything to it. It's just the percussion. It makes you want to dance.
Now, if you see in the United States, then Bhangra is really getting into the mainstream, and so many Americans or non-Indians are interested into this. And but if you go to India, I think still the Bhangra basically is confined to Punjab, and it has not been really spread all over India where it is accepted with the same enthusiasm. Do you think that once it is so widely accepted in the US, eventually it will be accepted in India and also in Europe or other parts?
See, that's a very interesting question, because in India, you're absolutely right. It's very siloed to Punjab.
Yeah, exactly.
You go to even Delhi and other places.
First time I saw Bhangra dance and learned about it when I moved to US. In India, my world was confined in UP and had no clue. Even when I went to Delhi, in Jawaharlal Nehru University, there was nothing, just no Bhangra, nothing. But only after moving here, I said, oh, there is a thing called Bhangra, and I was fascinated by that.
It's fun. I think there's more Bhangra competitions in the US than anywhere in the world. That's how many competitions there are here, And again, honestly, it's all really evolved through college. The college teams are the ones that are really, I don't even know how many Bhangra teams there are across I would say there's hundreds, and just in the US and Canada, there's a lot of Bhangra teams, And because there's so many teams, that's where the competitions can spring up from.
Sure.
So there's probably more Bhangra teams and competitions in the US than probably anywhere in the world, which is saying a lot.
I've also seen that, Bhangra is no longer a Punjabi dance, actually. Now I meet people and friends, they're not Punjabis, but they want to learn Bhangra and they're excited, their kids want to learn.
Yeah.
And so it is a very interesting experience, and I think there is an opportunity to really make it mainstream. What about, have you watched Europe, how the Bhangra is?
So I know in the UK, Bhangra is big too.
Because of the large Indian Punjabi population.
Exactly, there's a
and
huge
same
population.
thing in Canada too, right?
Yep, in Canada as well. Bhangra is not, so Bhangra has a lot of artists in the UK. There's singers, all these guys, the producers, the DJs. The Bhangra teams are actually not as good there as they are here. Probably some of the best teams in the world, I would say, are from the US and Canada. That's how good they are now. They've evolved to a level now that they can compete with anybody. I don't care where you're from. The UK is actually lagged behind. Punjab, obviously, that's where everything came from. So I would say that a lot of the U.S. and Canadian teams could go head to head with some of these teams from Punjab.
So how will you? That's what's going to my next question is how, if there is a competition like you have 12 teams from U.S. and 12 teams from Punjab, how that will play out?
You know, it's funny, you know, because I've heard of some of these competitions that where they have some of these teams from Punjab and some of the teams from Canada and the U.S., but you know, it never really plays out that way. You know, because I feel like there's always some stuff going on in the background. You know, if you really had the best teams from these different places all competing in one area,
Sure.
I think that would be an unbelievable show. You know, unfortunately, I don't see it logistically ever happening. You know, just because of
Do
just
you
being able to put it
ever
together.
plan to take teams from here to go to Punjab and compete in India? And
No, you know, the thing is, right, we don't really get involved in that side. We host it here. People come here. You know, as far as taking anybody else anywhere else, that's what we used to do. We're out of that business.
You're out
now.
of that.
Yeah, we don't do that stuff anymore. You know, if teams want to compete, they're more than welcome to go to Punjab. But it's just logistically, it's just, you know, it's just just even the flights. You're talking $1,200 a person, $1,200 to $1,500 a person.
sure.
It just gets infeasible.
What coming back to you personally is of course your upbringing in the Punjabi culture has played a very important role
Yep.
in your passion for Bhangra.
Yes.
Is there anything else which has really, you think that, you know, that's another thing which I have incorporated in Bhangra, or something for your personal growth from India or UK or?
Sure. So, you know, before we started Boston Bhangra, I used to be a DJ. You know, so music has just always been something that's been in my blood. You know, I used to be a DJ for almost 15 years, you know, and, you know, music, Bhangra, again, it's all comes back to music. You know, I've just always been very passionate about it. And, you know, so evolving all of that, you know, and coming back to Bhangra at the end of the day, you know, to me it's music, it's our culture, it's a passion of mine, you know, so that's really what ends up driving me.
Do you play any instrument?
I play the dhol.
Dhol, okay, really?
You know, yeah. So I do play the dhol. I don't consider myself an expert, but
Okay.
I can get by. You know.
Do you sing too? Or?
No, I don't do this thing. No, that I'll leave to my wife.
Okay. How good is your Punjabi?
I can speak okay. I can speak okay. You know, I used to be fluent when I was a kid when I first came here. The funny part is when I came to the U.S., I couldn't speak English. I only spoke Punjabi.
Oh, really?
And this is from the UK.
Okay.
So it's just kind of ironic the way things worked out.
Do you have any memory of growing up in UK?
A little bit. You know,
Yeah.
I was only 5 when I came. You know, so I used to spend time with my grandparents and my parents a lot, but not much more beyond that.
Do you still compete with your brother for Bhangra, or now you collaborate and cooperate?
Well, I've beaten him a long time.
Okay.
You know, but no.
So he's older or he's younger?
No, he's younger.
He's younger.
He's younger.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
but you know, like I'm still very involved in it. You know, he's actually moved to California. You know, so he's kind of involved in his own business and things like that. So he's busy with that. But whenever we actually do meet and we go to parties, we go at it once in a while.
You want to give us just one more quick lesson, just one move by just sitting down, you know, to really somebody sees that, oh, if you're making that move, you must be knowing Bhangra. What that move will be?
Well, you know something. Another move I'd recommend. You put us oval like this. Go like this.
Like this?
Yep. Go like this.
Okay.
And you just go like this.
Just like this?
Yep. Just like this.
Like this? Yeah?
Yep. Just like this.
Like this.
Yep. And just
Okay.
all on your shoulders going like this.
So always the focus comes back on the shoulder.
It's all on the
That-
shoulders. It all starts there.
So if I have to, like on 1 to 10 scale, and take up all body parts, you know, when it comes to dancing Bhangra, 10 being the maximum, what point you will give to shoulders?
Whew. Shoulders, I would say maybe a 7, 8.
7, 8 is that important.
It's that important. Shoulders are very important in Bhangra. Legs, shoulders, extremely important. Because it all starts from here.
What about stunts? Like, you know, I sit back, I get scared, I see these, you know, dancers jumping around and...
Yep. So stunts are not as big a part of Bhangra now as they used to be. When we used to compete, it was very big. Like, in fact, I used to do a stunt where I'd have 2 guys on top of me, you know? And those are dangerous stunts. You know, you can get hurt. You know, any one of the 3 can get hurt, you know? So it just, again, that's kind of gone down. Now it's really more focused on formations, movement, energy, along with gimmicky things that separate one team from the next.
Sure. In terms of demographics, say if you have 100 people in your Boston Bhangra team, just an example. So of this, say what percentage will be Punjabis, what percentage will be Indian, non-Punjabi Indian, what percentage will be non-Indians? Any data to just give an idea that
You
how
know, I'd say with our classes, with our team, almost 50% of the people are non-Indian.
50% is non-Indian.
Yeah, 50%. You know, it can be as high as that on any given team or any given, class. You know, when we go and do our performances at places, you might see half of our team, if not more than half of
Yeah,
our
I have
team.
seen that. That a lot of the
Yeah,
non-Indians.
they're not Indian, you know, and again, it's because, again, it all comes down to passion. I don't care what your background is. What I do care about is passion. If you want to learn, we can teach you.
Is knowing Punjabi is important for that or not? All you have to be familiar with the beats.
You know, the beats are important. Understanding Punjabi comes in where, you know, when you're listening to a song and trying to depict what the song is doing, that's where Punjabi comes in important, you know, because if you try to do that, then that really shows when you're competing that it shows the judges you know what you're talking about. You know, so, you know, at that point it does become important. It's good to have someone on the team that understands something, just so you can represent it to the best of your ability.
So like earlier we were talking about, the 4 or 5 features of good Bhangra dance, and you had mentioned that the emotions, the expressions are very important.
Yes.
So the one is the movement of shoulder.
Yep.
Second is the emotions. What are the other two?
Energy.
Energy, right? Yes.
You got to maintain the energy. You know, again, some people, just because you got great facial expressions, if you can't move your body, you're not going to go very far, you know? And then also just the movement and choreography. You know, what's going to separate you from the next person? You know, that's all very important, kind of depicting Bhangra to its highest level.
So what are your plans for the next 10 years as far as the Bhangra is concerned?
You know, again, my goal is to keep it moving. You know, again, I've been doing it for 11 years with Boston Bhangra, the competition. I've been involved with Boston Bhangra and Bhangra for 20 years, you know. I don't see myself ever stopping, you know, until I just get burned out altogether. I'm like, that's it, I'm done.
Do you get any grants or any financial support from some cultural organizations? Or?
You know, grants, funding, sponsorship, that's always, you know, tough. You know, unfortunately, it's not easy to get grant money or sponsor money. That would make our lives much easier, you know, but unfortunately, that's hard to come by. But, you know, we continue to kind of strive towards that, though.
Rohit, thank you very much for coming. It was
Thank you,
a pleasure
Upendra.
to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.